happen, and the movie is made around it. And what you can actually recognize from the trade log here is quite important. Take a look at well, first of all, look at 1300 hours. If they manipulate oil higher than 80, there, see it? 80, 89, 80, 90, at 1300 hours. Well, what happened at 1300 hours? They put in the pivot, right? So what price was this? 89, do you agree? 80, 89 at 1300 hours. Well, 1300 hours was that price there. So in other words, what this trade log tells me is if the price goes above that, we should be looking to sell it. Yes or no? Is that what the trade log tells me? So why do people not use it? Why do people not let it help them find some of these trades? It doesn't mean you're going to sell it. It just means you're aware of the possibility that there's going to be a manipulation coming in from somewhere that may generate a sell. Now, obviously, 1400 hours is a really important idea, and we've just came into 1400 hours, and I'm going to use that spike higher to now book some of my money. Now, I don't like the sell. I don't like the sell because it doesn't fit my narrative in terms of bonds. It doesn't fit in with that as a storyline. So I don't like this. I took the sell. That was a sell I did take. But I don't like the storyline behind that sell. But when I got this trade coming in here at 13.14, they're going to start looking to bid this. Now at 13.14, of course, there's 13.14 right there. Okay. So what we're now asking ourselves is, they're looking to bid this. Now, obviously, if they're going to buy this, the idea is they'll probably want to try and get some liquidity from it, right? So what I've got to do is I've got to look to my left and find where the liquidity is. So there was some liquidity there. I could also look to my left and notice that there was a little bit of liquidity there as well. So obviously what I'm now aware of is I've got a couple of sell side liquidity areas that I can take advantage of should I wish to get that buy trade on. Well, that buy trade works for me in terms of my underlying long oil narrative. So if that buy trade works for me and I can get those lower prices, and you can see we got this at 13.29 as well. So at 13.29, let's mark off 13.29. There it is right there, right? So again, I'm looking at that saying, okay, so I'm getting if we get oil lower again, I should be looking at that and saying, well, there's some liquidity there that might be really tappable. And there's some liquidity still there that might be tappable. And there's some liquidity there that might still be tappable. So I'm looking at them taking the price into those liquidity areas to try and maybe get a little buy trade out of this. And remember, this lines up with my trade. I want to be long. And obviously on the basis that I want to be long, I mean, kind of obvious, right? Kind of obvious. I don't really want to be short oil. It's kind of obvious I want to be long oil. So this is my preferred option right here. So you can disregard the sells if you want to, because that doesn't line up with your value narrative. So you could obviously, the value narrative's got nothing to do with the supply demand. The GRT's got nothing to do with supply and demand. It's to do with market manipulation of prices. So it sits inside of this jigsaw puzzle. So when I look at oil, I am looking for anything that says oil lower than. So as I scroll back, there isn't anything that says oil lower than until this trade here, is there? 10.14. Oil lower than $80.40 at 10.14. So where's 10.14? Where is $80.40? Well, we know that $80.40 is a way down here, right? But it doesn't matter that it's a way down there because it's any sell side liquidity that we might be able to tap into. Well, that was my exit, look. So we tapped into that liquidity and there's 10.14 just there. The price is now telling us if they decide to go lower, it's probably a buy side manipulation. or a buyer's manipulate. They're trying to manipulate the sellers to come into this. Now, obviously, they might not be successful, but there you get the idea that this is probably now a long trade coming in, and it lines up with your underlying value. Now, the best trade we could get would have been one earlier than that, and we'll keep looking again. Oil lower, 9.59. See it? So 9.59, 10 o'clock, oil lower. So that you got lower, didn't you? There was lower there. So there was a sell side liquidity just after 10 o'clock. You would have been able to buy into that sell side liquidity, wouldn't you? Yeah. It was on your chart here. Oil lower, 10 o'clock. So you could have bought into that sell side liquidity in line with your standard value narrative. Perfectly easy trade there. And we keep going again. Oil higher, no use to me. Oil lower, okay. 8.29. 8.29. Things that make you go, look at that, guys. 8.29. 8.29 is a way up here. Now, obviously, the value's just turned at that stage. So obviously the idea of manipulating, they've went all the way down to the very biggest bottom edge available to us. And at that stage there at 8.29, sorry, 8.29, where's 8.29? There it is there, oil lower. $80.43 was the target price. Yeah. You see it? 8.29, $80.43 was the target price. Guess where that sell trade, that buy trade was there? $80.43. 8.50. You see it? It's the exact price, isn't it? It's the exact price that GRT told us about at 29 minutes past 8. So whilst you can come into the trades aggressively, you know, when you've got an early to the party type trade like this, and the difference between that liquidity there and where the price was at that stage was substantial. So we really want to give it the difference. We want to give it that distance to at least go below here and see if we could get down into that trade area. And obviously that idea there is on your GRT. It's live. It's sitting there for you to take advantage. So in other words, GRT found that buy trade there. GRT found that buy trade there. And GRT found that buy trade there. And yet people don't use it. If GRT can find that buy trade, and that buy trade, is it not one of the best tools you've got? Well, if you agree it is one of the best tools you've got to find opportunities on oil, well, maybe perhaps use it. It might be a good idea to keep an eye on it so you understand it a little bit better, so you understand the manipulation of certain things in certain conditions. It's all done for you. All you have to do is keep it available on your screens, reference it, and think about whether it fits in with the other pieces to your jigsaw puzzle, like your order flow, your underlying value storylines, your bond narrative in the background, and so on. You know that we want to be long inflation today, so does the oil at lower prices narrative not make perfect sense? Of course it does. It absolutely does. And that's how you find the best trade opportunities, lining it up with the rest of your stories. Buy side value, buy side oil lower prices for the bid, sell side liquidity to buy into, sell side liquidity to buy into, sell side liquidity to buy into. If you look at it, they're all really good deep pullback narratives there, aren't they? Very deep pullback narratives there, and again there, and again there. So what's Reeve going to shout about very soon? Z score, correct? Reeve's going to be asking, well, what about the Z score, Ray? Perhaps people may want to see the Z score in this chart. Would that be something you'd like to see? Perhaps. Let's take a look. If we look at the Z score in isolation, did we see any red Z scores in and around those areas? Well, there it is. There's your red Z score coming in there. There's your red Z score coming in there. There's your red Z score coming in there. So you're getting those red Z scores in and around those areas. We took off the joining dots, by the way, in case you're wondering where the hell they are. We'll just put them back on so that we don't have people missing and misunderstanding what it is we're showing. So there's your Z-scores now in place, and you can see the Z-scores appearing into those areas. So you're recognizing that that's a thing, that extra drive lower gives you this idea that you got the Z-score you wanted. And if you got the Z-score that you wanted, all you're looking for is to get your buy trade away from those trade areas there, get your buy trade away from this and get your buy trade away from that, in line with the bigger picture value here, in line with your bond trade narrative. And obviously the takeaway from those three trades, well, $800, right? $800 profit on the swing higher. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, guys. But it's got to be the whole story. It's the whole story and nothing but the story. It's just one of those things. You make sense of the story, the narrative comes to life, the storyline becomes basically one-sided. We sell equities, we buy oil, we sell bonds, we sell gold, right? That's the story. And that's pretty much all we've done today. And obviously the equity sells have been pretty good. There's been a few situations where we've seen equities getting a little bit overcooked in here, a little bit overcooked in there. We got a nice easy sell there, very overcooked in there for an easy sell, and down goes equities in line with that same storyline. Sell side gold, we've talked about already. On the spike higher, perhaps, but nonetheless, still a sell side gold.